All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Excited to be 1-0 in the Nebraska season. We got to get a lot better. Difference between saying we want to be better and then getting better and being better, and that's what this whole week's going to be about. 0-0. We're kind of restarting the whole season, just like we talked about, just like we've always done. Got a heck of an opponent coming in here. Won 9 games last year. Won their bowl game, and I think it's one of the best coached teams in college football that doesn't get talked about enough. Chris Creighton's one of the best coaches, I think, in the country, and what he's done at Eastern Michigan hasn't been done for forever. And we're going to play a really good football team coming in here on Saturday night. So we got a lot of work to do. Obviously, have to get better and be better, and that's going to be the focus this week. So I'm sure you have questions, so we'll open up.
When you look at offensive improvement in the run game, what are the key things you're looking for?
You know, it's not just – I think you look at the stats and you go, oh, that's surprising. But when you look at it, we had 3 possessions in the first half. We're preparing for ghosts, right? So it's not like you take the field and you're like, oh, that's what they were going to do after the first play. It's constant. And when there's limited possessions and limited time in the first half, I mean, they changed their front numerous times. They did a lot of things. So you have, 20-some plays maybe. It took the first quarter was 20 minutes long maybe in real time. So you're constantly adapting and changing and making adjustments, but you still don't know what you're going to see. You haven't even thrown all your formations out there yet to really see it. So it's one thing that, we hang our hat on running the football. I mean, that's philosophical. But when we come back in after 3 possessions, they take the opening kickoff. They score a touchdown. We're down 7-3. There weren't many plays in the first half. You need to get some points on the board. And not saying it changed, but, throwing it 44 times is probably shocking to a lot of people. That's what was required to win that particular game. And, again, we have to be better in a lot of areas if we're going to throw the ball like that. Which, again, there's going to be changes of our offense this year. We all talked about that. But we have to complete more passes. We're going to have to throw it to run it. And there were 3 drops on there and then, 3 missed throws that you sit there and say, okay, that's just normally what we do. Then you're 30 of 44. You're around that 60-some percent. And you're like in the, mid 60%. And you're like, okay, I see that, we did what we had to do, but it was a little below that. So we got to be able to improve that. But it's not because somebody's not doing. If you look back at our few games against Nebraska and how we've been able to beat Nebraska, they're very good up front. They're very big. They're very strong. They're Nebraska. And if you sit there and think, we're just going to pound Nebraska, and just run the ball down their throat, I don't know how much success you're going to have with how big and how deep they are up front. That was at least not knowing what they were going to do. But we want to be better in that area. And, that's something that we keep talking about, being balanced. Playmakers touching the football, and we did what we had to do to win that particular game.
Now that you've had a chance to go back and look at film, PJ, what's your evaluation of the offensive line and the running backs and Zach Evans? What's his status? How is he doing?
Well, he's doing good, but this is all about competition. I don't make the depth charts; the players make the depth charts. I just pick who played best. And just because you did something one year doesn't mean you're going to be there the next year. I mean, you keep adding talent and you got to go out there and perform. We have full, trust in him, and he gets out there and gets his opportunity. Same thing with Darius Taylor. We felt really good with Sean and what he was able to bring that, plus Bryce Williams with the experience, especially not knowing what they were going to do. We felt really good about those 2 backs who have played a lot of football, who played against Nebraska before in Bryce, and then Sean played a lot of football in the past anyway. So we felt really good about going with those 2 guys. Offensive line, I thought we did well for what we thought we were going to see, but, we got to keep our quarterback upright. There weren't that many sacks, but, part of it's on the quarterback, part of it's on the O-line, part of it's on the tight ends, protection-wise, staying in the pocket when there's a pocket, not flushing yourself out when you don't need to, and then being able to trust everybody up front that you can stand in there and everybody doing their job up front. I just thought we needed more consistency at a really high level. The efficiency needs to be way more consistent just across the board. And Dave, it doesn't matter which position we're talking about. We all just need to be more efficient and more consistent in everything that we do.
What did you learn about your team that you didn't know before in the Nebraska game, PJ?
I don't know if I learned anything new. I knew this team was resilient. We picked this word poise back in January, looking at our schedule, feeling our team for the first month. We're like, all right, there's going to be really, really good moments, and there's going to be some really deep valleys at times, and throughout the entire year. Whether that's injuries, whether that's, opponents, whether that's how you play, whether that's winning, losing, we have no idea, but there's going to be a lot of that. Experience, inexperience, it's how we're going to handle the moments when it's really high and how we're going to handle the moments when it's, we're in a valley. How do we respond to all that stuff? So that word poise fit this team perfectly. And I thought you saw that on Thursday night. They were poised. They never thought they were out of it. Remember, this is a whole team. This is about offense versus defense versus special teams. We're the Minnesota Golden Gophers, and we've said this for a long time. We want to play complementary football, and we're going to need each other to be the best football team we can be. It's not like, hey, we don't care what you do. Just get us the ball back so we score another touchdown. Don't really care what you do over the other side of the ball, or vice versa, or just on special teams. We call games. We do things together collectively, knowing what the strengths of our teams are. And but I learned, the things that we thought. This team's really poised. They have a lot of confidence in themselves. They're never out of it. They've got pretty level heads for as inexperienced as some of them are. And then guys that played a ton of football bring that. I mean, Tyler Newbin in really high moments is talking about how he's going to go get it. He's walking off the sideline, I'm going to go pick it off. Now, he's said that a lot. He just happened to, Babe Ruth only pointed one time, I think, to the fence, we think. Right? Maybe he pointed 100 times and then hit one, and everybody covers that one. But Tyler Newbin, that's the type of player he is. And when you start to look at what he learned from Antoine Winfield Jr. as an X factor, Antoine passed that to him and Jay Howe, and then he's going to pass that to the Kerry Browns of the world, to the Coleman Brysons, to the AGs of the world. I mean, that's what it's all about, and that's that cultural sustainability over time. So, Joe, long answer to your short question, but I don't know if I learned anything new. But there's going to be high-pressure moments and high-pressure situations, and it's going to come down to our poise.
What has Trayvon Jones brought to the team since he arrived here?
Have you spent time with Trey? You need to. His personality is infectious. He glows, constantly smiling, unbelievable personality. And it's interesting, when you bring players over from the transfer portal, you really worry as a coach, how well will they fit the locker room? I mean, you don't get to know them as long as you get to know your high school recruits. And the minute Trey got here, you think Trey was here 5 years. I'm talking like a week into it. And he was already hanging around the Wallies and the Brevins, and they were already connected. And you could say, all right, that guy must be a really good egg because, that group just took him in and they were hanging out. But he's got a lot of confidence in himself. He's a very good athlete. He's very tough. I remember we were in training camp, and it was one of the first days we were in pads and we could actually tackle, and he comes on a corner cat. And I mean, you talk about, I think, our low blocking or low tackling has gotten a lot better. Our submarine tackling, our shoot tackling, and he came in and boom, shot the legs out with power and efficiency and sawed the running back off right then. I'm like, all right, I haven't seen a corner do that in a long time here, maybe besides Wally. So I was like, he's tough, he has it, and he's a great kid with an infectious personality and loves football. So that's pretty high praise for a young man that just got here. He's got to keep getting better like everybody else, and we're far from being a really good football team right now. But it's fun to be able to have really good kids on your team.
You mentioned the 44 passes. Someone told you, in July, you would throw them many times and never trailed by more than 7 in a game. Would you have been surprised?
With this team, no. I'm not saying that's where you want to live, but if we have to do that all year, we'll have to do that all year. Again, we challenged our football team to be better across the board. Special teams, kickoff return, punt return, offense, running the ball, throwing the ball, efficiency, consistency, tackling, explosive plays, defending those. So it wouldn't surprise me with this team. If you would have told me that last year, it would have, because we have way more playmakers than we did. And again, this is, Greg and Matt's first opportunity doing it with the weapons, not knowing what you're actually going to see on defense. You have an idea. You never really know till game one. Now everybody in the country has a little bit of data, and now you can respond to that data. The more data you get, the better you can be, right? But, it wouldn't have surprised me at all, especially playing Nebraska. I feel like we always, at least the last few years, we've had to throw the ball a little bit more, especially late in the game to find a way to win, and that's what we're going to constantly do. Would I have loved to start fast and have 3 touchdowns on 3 drives? Absolutely.
How would you evaluate the play of the linebackers, especially with Cody out?
Yeah, that's part of when we say cultural sustainability. I think when you look back at our linebackers, from Blake Cashman to Kamal Martin, and what they, Thomas Barber, and what they passed down to the Mariano Sori-Marins and the Jack Gibbons, and then what Jack's passed down to Cody Lindenberg, and what's Cody already still on this team with 3 years left, passing down to the Mavericks, to the Devin Williams, to the Joey Gerlachs, to the Sealigs. You saw a lot of people out there that were prepared for their opportunity. And we got to play better, but you saw a lot of guys prepared and ready to go, and that's what a team does. There's going to be adversity, there's going to be injuries. That's just part of it. It's not, if, it's when. And I thought they handled that really well.
Did you see him progress as the game went on?
I did. They fly around. One thing I don't worry about with Coach Rossi, coach of linebackers, is how hard they play. Now we got to get better. We got to be more efficient in our tackling, our angles, pressing the hip. We weren't as good as we need to be in some of those areas that kind of got out on us. Too many ankle tackles and diving instead of running through the hip and using our tackling circuit. But we'll improve those things that we did last night.
Hoping to have Chris, Cody, and Darnell back at 100%.
Hopefully really soon. But you guys will find that out, and Big Ten has a rule now with the 2-hour rule, and we'll use that as the Big Ten wants it used.
Yeah, and with the special teams, that kick return led to the score
Yeah.
for Nebraska, and then Eastern Michigan 2 return touchdowns. How are you guys preparing for that?
Yeah, I thought we did pretty well, except that one return. And if you watch it, two guys are they got handsy and eyesy. They got down inside where they just kind of lost their gap, just like gap integrity on defense. And that's not where the return's supposed to go. He just bounced it because of the lack of contain by two young players. And they'll get coached up. We believe in them. But they've got a really good return game. They showed that. Anytime you have two returns in a game for a touchdown, that's not by accident. They've done that. They did that last year. I took one to the house against Western Michigan University. I did that, shoot another time. I mean, they're good at it, and they spend a lot of time on it. They've got a few techniques that they use that are a little different than what we've seen, which can help with what they do. But when you have two guys return a kick each, that's very rare. And they kick it away from the guy, and he takes it back. So that just shows their scheme's well dialed in. Their coach or their players are all bought into that, and they execute their scheme really well.
What did you like most about your defensive performance on Thursday?
Well, I just thought it was collective, from the top down, from the back to the middle to the up front. We played a lot of guys, rotated a lot of guys. With 20 plays or whatever it was in the first half, there wasn't a lot of data in the first half. Second half, I think both teams were throwing the ball a little bit. I think if it was a normal Minnesota game of years past, maybe we would have got 40 total plays. We threw the ball a heck of a lot more than we usually did in the past. But I just loved how we swarmed to the ball. I loved top down. I loved that they never thought they were out of it. They just played really, really hard. And if you play hard, especially on defense, sometimes even if you are wrong, you'll be able to get somebody on the ground or you'll be able to make a play. It's the times you're not doing that you worry that you have to be perfect. So they knew what they were doing. They did a great job with halftime adjustments, sideline adjustments. I don't think there's anybody better in the business at doing that than Joe.
Do you anticipate using the same offensive line configuration heading into week 2?
That's a great question. We'll see. I think we got 7-8 guys that can play. I think we got 4 guys that have solidified themselves as starters. And we'll do what we have to do in practice and keep evaluating and see what that guard position looks like and go from there. But I have confidence in all the guys. It's just who's going to do it better. And when it's that close, who edges somebody out to play the most? Those are the questions we have to answer. It's not like, hey, we're not good enough there. That's not what I'm saying. We've got 4 guys. Somebody's got to separate themselves. And whether that's a young guy or whether that's an older guy, we're waiting on that. But it's a good problem when you have 8 guys. We have to be more consistent.
I know Eastern Michigan went into the year rated among the best special teams units in the MAC. What else do they do well besides the kickoff returns?
Yeah, well, their punt team's really good. They fly around. They play all their starters on special teams. I can't say all because that's technically not true, but they play their best players on special teams. They're all over the place. You can tell that Coach Creighton, which he always has valued special teams. Even back when I was at Western Michigan, had really solid special teams. And, that's the bridge that connects offense and defense. And he's won a lot of games on special teams, and that's the difference makers. When you look on the offensive side of the ball, they got a quarterback who can really throw it. They run it with them, too. They've got a running back who used to be a quarterback at Iowa. And then so he does some more wildcat. He plays running back. He can throw the ball, so he provides that wildcat dangerous aspect to still throw the football. They're really big up front. I mean, the right tackle's huge. They've got a lot of offensive linemen that they play. They've got a lot of skill. They threw the ball down the field. They ran it with some efficiency. And then when you look at them over the years, that's what they do. Defensively, they're multiple in what they do, whether 4 down or 3 down. But they keep everything in front of them. Did a really good job of limiting, the team last week of keeping in front of them. They scored some points, but they eliminated a lot of explosive plays, and they play really hard, fly around to the football. And, I wouldn't expect anything less from Chris.
What would you assess your pass rush against Nebraska?
That was better. I thought it can keep getting better. But I think you saw that, we got home with 4, and were able to get some sacks, whether it was Strigow, whether it was Ja, whether it was Jalen Logan Redding, and we were able to get to the quarterback with 4, which was really good for us. Something that you want to see in Big Ten play. You know, you want to be able to see that, and we were able to do that against that offensive line at Nebraska. Seems like they've been there forever. I mean, they've played together for a very long time. They're massive, they're huge, they're incredibly strong. I think one of the better O-lines, most improved O-lines from last year to this year. But I thought, you know, we invested in it in the offseason, so you want to be able to see the return on your investment. And I saw that. You only have one game to be able to see, but you're able to see some of it. We can be a lot better in it, and there's a few instances we probably should have had a few more, but I thought they did a really good job of, for the most part, of getting home.
What did you see from Ethan when handling the different stunts and blitzes that Nebraska threw at you?
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, as Ethan gets more experience and plays, he's going to have even more of even better of a pocket presence. You know, I thought there were times he handled the pocket presence very well, and then there were times that, you know, he's got room for improvement in that. But again, not knowing what they're going to do and feeling that, you know, studying the film and being able to see how they, you know, they stunt, they blitz, what stunts and blitzes do they have, where are they going to come from on different hashes, down a distance, situational football. It was hard to be able to, when you're preparing for ghosts, hard to be able to have that beat on that. But he's got a good feel. I just thought sometimes he got a little jumpy, getting out of the pocket a little too early, maybe abandoned his technique a little bit here and there where, you know, his platform wasn't set, you know, made some throws that he'd love to have back. But, you know, that's something that we'll reiterate and coach this week and get him better on, because it's one thing to say it, like I said at the beginning of the press conference, but it's another thing to do it better and then become better.
2 more for Coach.
PJ, is there an update on Craig McDonald's eligibility?
No update.
It's taken this long into the season to get
Not
started.
surprised at all.
You know, Colorado was the, 86 whatever transfer portal guys.
Yeah.
You have data, I know. What are you learning about this? Is a transfer portal guy, do they fit in quicker? Do you tend to want to play them in big, early in the year because they're not as afraid of the situation? Is there anything that you're learning that way about a transfer portal versus a redshirt freshman or a freshman?
It's a great question. You know, first of all, it's a very small sample size so far, right? But I think everybody has their own philosophical beliefs of how you're going to build a program in 2023. Mike, it's very different than 10 years ago. It's different than 20 years ago. You know, I mean, whatever you were doing 10 years ago is obsolete, right? It's like your cell phone. Whatever cell phone you had 10 years ago, it doesn't even turn on anymore if it's 10 years old, right? We got to get you a new one, right? You're still flipping that thing, man. And how do you get the work done on your flip phones? I'm just kidding. But the sample size is small. We have a philosophical belief. We have taken advantage of the portal. It's been a huge benefit for a place like Minnesota. How we use it is our own philosophical belief. But I think guys have fit in really well. We've also lost some players to the transfer portal for all the right reasons and some that you wish you had them back. So it's still a small sample size. It's only a few years that people have been able to do it. But I think there's been a lot of talk, especially today on Sports Talk Radio, of what Colorado did to TCU. Now, that's one person's view. That doesn't mean it's better or worse or wrong or right or the new thing. You're going to have what you believe as a head coach and how to build a program at the place you're at. And what are you allowed to do at the place you're at as well? I think we all have different things that we deal with from a university perspective, from an administrative perspective, from a football perspective. To a lot of different demographics, to a lot of things, where you're located, all that. How much success you've had, what's the brand, I can go on and on. So it's really neat to watch it, though, because you can win a lot of different ways. You can lose a lot of different ways. And I think that's what we're starting to find out in college football. It used to just kind of be, okay, these teams do it this way, and they're always going to be at the top. Well, 2023, you have no idea, and that's what's really exciting about it, too. And especially for the fan bases. Now, we have a philosophical beliefs of cultural sustainability through high school development and adding players through the portal. I'm not saying that 5 years from now I'm not going to think differently. I mean, if I'm even the head coach here in 5 years, it changes so fast. But the pressure to win and win now is higher than it's ever been with the amount of money that's involved, with the college football playoff, with the 12-team playoff, with the conference realignment. There's a lot that goes into just, somebody saying, okay, well, I'm going to turn over the roster. But very intriguing, that's for sure, of how people are doing it across the country. All right, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Row the boat, Sky Go Gophers. Thanks, everyone.